Genesis chapter 10, verse 1. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. Verse 2. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tiras. Verse 3. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Jirpah, and Togarmah. Verse 4. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dudanim. Verse 5. Of these were the isles of the nations divided into their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. Verse 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mitzrayim, and Put, and Canaan. Verse 7. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Trama, and Sabatica. And the sons of Brahma, Shiva, and Dedan. Verse 8. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. Verse 9. He was a mighty hunter before Jehovah. Wherefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before Jehovah. Verse 10. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, and the land of Shinar. Verse 11. Out of that land he went forth into Assyria, and builded Nineveh, and Rehoboth-ir, and Calah. Verse 12. And reasoned between Nineveh and Calah the same in the great city. Verse 13. And Mizraim begat Ludim, and Anamim, and Lehabim, and Naphtuhim. Verse 13. And Mizraim begat Ludim, and Anamim, and Lehabim, and Naphtuhim. Verse 14. And Patrusim, and Casluhim, whence went forth the Palestine, and Caphtorim. Verse 15. And Canaan begat Sidon, his firstborn, and Het. Verse 16. And the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgashite. Verse 17. And the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite. Verse 18. And the Arvadite, and the Simarite, and the Harmatite, and afterwards were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. Verse 19. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as thou goest toward Gerar, and unto Gaza, as thou goest toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zeboim, unto Lasha. Verse 20. These are the sons of Ham after their families, after their tongues, and their lands, and their nations. Verse 21. And unto Shem, the father of all the children of Eber, the elder brother of Japheth, to him also were children born. Verse 22. The sons of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Alpakad, and Lud, and Aram. Verse 23. And the sons of Aram, Uz, Ahol, and Jether, and Mash. Verse 24. And Arpakad begat Shelah, and Shelah begat Eber. Verse 25. And unto Eber was born 2 sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. Verse 26. And Joktan begat Almodad, and Shipli, and Hasarmaveth, and Cherah. Verse 27, and Hodoram, and Usal, and Diklah. Verse 28, and Ubal, and Abimael, and Sheba. Verse 29, and Oper, and Havilah, and Jabab. All these were the sons of Joktan. Verse 30, and their dwelling was Pramisha, as thou goest toward Sippar, and the mountains of the east. Verse 31, these are the sons of Shem after their families, after their tongues, and their lands, after their nations. Verse 32, these are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations and their nations, and of these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. Genesis chapter 11, verse 1. Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. Verse 2. As people moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. Verse 3. They said to each other, come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They used brick instead of stone, and tar for mortar. Verse 4. Then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city, with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth. Verse 5. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. Verse 6. The Lord said, if as one people speaking the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Verse 7. Come, let us go down and confuse their language so that you will not understand each other. Verse 8. So the Lord scattered them from there over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. Verse 9. That is why it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From there the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth. Verse 10. This is the account of Shem's family line 2 years after the flood. When Shem was 100 years old, he became the father of Arphaxad. Verse 11. And after he became the father of Arphaxad, Shem lived 500 years and had other sons and daughters. Verse 12. When Arphaxad had lived 35 years, he became the father of Shelah. Verse 13. And after he became the father of Shelah, Arphaxad lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters. Verse 14. When Shelah had lived 30 years, he became the father of Eber. Verse 15. And after he became the father of Eber, Shelah lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters. Verse 16. When Eber had lived 34 years, he became the father of Peleg. Verse 17. And after he became the father of Peleg, Eber lived 430 years and had other sons and daughters. Verse 18. When Peleg had lived 30 years, he became the father of Reu. Verse 19. And after he became the father of Reu, Peleg lived 209 years and had other sons and daughters. Verse 20. When Reu had lived 32 years, he became the father of Serug. Verse 21. And after he became the father of Serug, Reu lived 207 years and had other sons and daughters. Verse 22. When Serug had lived 30 years, he became the father of Nahor. Verse 23. And after he became the father of Nahor, Serug lived 200 years and had other sons and daughters. Verse 24. When Nahor had lived 29 years, he became the father of Terah. Verse 25. And after he became the father of Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and had other sons and daughters. Verse 26. After Terah had lived 70 years, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Verse 27. This is the account of Terah's family line. Terah became the father of Abraham, Nahor, and Haran became the father of Lut. Verse 28. While his father Terah was still alive, Haran died in Ur of the Chaldeans, in the lands of his birth. Verse 29. Abraham and Nahor both married. The name of Abraham's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah. She was the daughter of Haran, the father of both Milcah and Escah. Verse 30. Now Sarai was childless because she was not able to conceive. Verse 31. Terah took his sons Abraham, his grandson Lot, sons of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, the wife of his sons Abraham, and together they set out from the Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Verse 32. Terah lived 205 years, and he died in Haran. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. The Lord had said to Abraham, Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. Verse 2. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. Verse 3. I will bless those who blessed you, and whoever curses you I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Verse 4. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. Verse 5. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. Verse 6. Abram traveled through the land as far as the sites of the great tree of Moreh at Shechem. At the time, the Canaanites were in the land. Verse 7. The Lord appeared to Abraham and said, To your offspring I will give this land. So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. Verse 8. From there he went on towards the hills east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. Verse 9. Then Abraham set out and continued toward the Negev. Verse 10. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abraham went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. Verse 11. As she was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, I know what a beautiful woman you are. Verse 12. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, This is his wife. Then they will kill me, but will let you live. Verse 13. Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you. Verse 14. When Abraham came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that Sarai was a very beautiful woman. Verse 15. And when Pharaoh's officials saw her, They praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into his palace. Verse 16. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. Verse 17. But the Lord inflicted serious diseases to Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife Sarai. Verse 18. So Pharaoh summoned Abram. "What have you done to me?" he said. "Why didn't you tell me she was your wife?" Verse 19. Why did you say she's my sister? So that I took her to be my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go. Verse 20. Then Pharaoh gave orders about Abram to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had.